When people are struggling with bad result, things falling through the cracks, it's because the process is designed to breed that.
Most companies, they do have processes, but they might not be written down. And if they have 25 employees, there might be 25 processes.
And a lot of times they're just not designing the process intentionally. It's just kind of happening. It's like they're building a house without blueprints.
What really drives you crazy is uncertainty. I don't know where I stand. I got to go figure this out, look this up.
Process mapping, if you start doing this really well, where you're like, oh, wow, like less fires to deal with.
Less stress, more free time, and more money. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cashflow Contractor Deep Dive.
Oh, Martin, we have worked with several of the same clients on this topic of process mapping. What do people, you're usually the one that sees it first whenever you work with a company. What's typically going on?
I would like to see their processes so that, we sing the praises of processes so that it's not all up to the owner for the value of the company, the growing of the company, and all that thing. And I want to understand how they do business. In other words, I always put myself in a position, if I came to work for you today and you handed me this responsibility of bidding, of leads and selling and bidding and implementing and getting stuff ordered and putting the guys out there, how the hell would I do it? I literally put myself, how could I find out how to do that? And most companies have, they do have processes, but they might not be written down. And if they have 25 employees, there might be 25 processes. And so I'm always interested in it's a place to start on an organized business.
Yeah.
What do we do? Call comes in, what happens? Anyway, so that mapping out of the processes is the first step in my mind. And then we go into what are the processes and how do we describe them at an appropriate level without writing volumes, but enough that we can train people to work the processes without having to do it every day. Me having to be there, be the owner.
Right.
How about you?
Yeah. I think for me, what I think about, when people are struggling, it's because every process is designed to get the results that it gets. And when they're struggling with bad results, things falling through the cracks, things not being done correctly, quality control issues, stress, uncertainty, it's because the process is designed to breed that. And so if they can act, and a lot of times they're just not designing the process intentionally, it's just kind of happening. And it's like they're building a house without blueprints. They're just, I think this door should go here. And I think that maybe we'll have a water line coming through here. No, you're going to have an architect come up with the drawings, have blueprints of exactly where things go before you start actually building a new house. It should be the same thing, ideally, whenever you're selling a product or selling a service. You should have an idea of what is the blueprint for delivering this product or service. So that's kind of what that process map is. It's where are we going and how are we going to get there? And I think for a lot of businesses, the basic place to start is just with what you deliver. If you are delivering a service or a product, how do we get all the way from we acquired the work, so a new lead came in, all the way to we got a testimonial and a review. So somewhere in there, we went through a sales process, we went through a marketing process, a sales process, a service process or delivery process. There was maybe production in there for a lot of contractors or manufacturers. And then there's the install process. And then there's the follow-up with the customer after that. So there's a lot of processes within the overall process of delivering their business to a customer. But when you do that, whenever you map it all out and you have the overall process, one, you can start to break it down into individual processes within, like I just said, for marketing, sales, service, install, production, whatever it is. But you're also going to start to see redundancies. You're going to see bottlenecks. You're going to see things that you need to actually incorporate that don't exist. And then it really opens up the door for where do we need better systems that our team can follow, and so we can execute better and have more efficiencies throughout the process. It allows you to start introducing software to your process and figure out what software fits your overall processes. And then from there, once you have the software in, you can start tracking things. You can start assigning responsibilities. So that's in a nutshell what we're talking about with process mapping.
Yeah, when I explain it to people at my level, I've got an 8-foot whiteboard in my conference room. I just draw a horizontal line, and let's say we're talking about workflow of delivering the product or the service that we sell, as opposed to maybe a workflow that would be in accounting or something like that. I just draw a line across there and go, what's the first thing that happens?
Yeah.
Well, we sell something. Well, no. What's the first thing that happens? A call comes in. Okay, you can go back before that. Oh yeah, that's right. A call comes in. What happens to that call? I mean, that's where a lot of places fail. They weren't there.
All the time.
They spent all the money to get leads coming in on your website, and nobody answers the phone or doesn't look at the form that gets sent. Anyway, you start there and say, what happens? Then you say, well, we got to deal with what to do with it. And then what happens next? Bob or Mary, the salesperson, has to go someplace to find it. Anyway, so we go all the way across, just at kind of a high level, marking out the activities that go from, as you said, getting a lead to getting a review on a paid account, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it's fun. And I think you do this. I know I do. I chunk it out. You can get really complex if you draw a horizontal line. What do I do with the call? Well, is Bob here? I send it to Bob. If Bob's not here, I have to send it to Sally. Sally's not here. I have to put it into, you can go crazy with that. Mm-hmm. What I like to do is the first chunk, lead management belongs to whoever it belongs to.
Right.
And it's still theirs until some event happens, like contract, bid meeting schedule. Then it goes over to Fred. So, and the reason I really use Khalil, guys, is I'm great at talking about this, but capturing this in software requires first that you think of it, but then that you choose the software and know how to use it. And I don't. I mean, years ago said, I'm not going to try to learn all these softwares. But that's where I give it to Cleo, because we have the same attitude towards processes, and then we can get it encapsulated in software that actually helps facilitate. Yeah. And one last thing, and then you talk about it, but we frequently talk about one place to look, one source of truth.
Exactly.
I crave for anybody, I don't care how big you are, that you can look one place and think of these little boxes. You have this many in leads, this many are out of leads, this many are in bidding, this many are accept their waiting schedule. Anyway, I can look and see what's where quickly. I can do it at 8:00 in the morning, get on the computer and look. Yeah. And I can drill down and say, man, that's been there a long time and all that. But I've got one place to look. Where are things in the process?
Well, and that ties in. We're probably going to do an episode soon about silos, what a silo is, and removing them. But having that one place to look really helps remove a lot of those silos. Now, that one place to like, there's Enterprise Resource Program. Is that what ERP stands for?
Yeah, ERPs. Yeah.
Yeah, ERPs are basically where literally everything inside your business, from where you track tasks to where you enter payroll to where you hire applicants to where you sign contracts, every single thing is in one place. And those can be kind of chaotic at times if you're not done correctly. And they can be a lot to manage, literally having maybe multiple people on your team just to manage the ERP. But really the way that I think about it is all of your hiring, for example, should be done in the same place where you can track applicants, track interviews, track hires. If it's all in one place, it makes it much easier because Anybody that's dealing with hiring can go to that space. Same thing for sales, marketing, and service. If we can see all of the data about what we are selling, what we're marketing, and what we're delivering, then it's extremely valuable for us to know exactly where we're going in the future. We're selling a lot of this, we deliver this exceptionally well. Let's double down on the marketing budget for that product or that service. Just like you probably do all of your invoicing, taxes, payroll inside of QuickBooks, right? It's one place to look for all of those things. And imagine if you're invoicing in a different tool to where you're tracking all of your books in one tool, and then payroll in a different one, and then taxes in a different one. It becomes complicated. And that's where you create silos. So with this process mapping, if you do it well, it allows you to remove silos and to get into specific software. So yeah. One thing I want to talk about that's really helpful is, a lot of times when people are making process maps, they overcomplicate it and they add essentially what I would call stages. So new form submission comes in would be stage 1. Then we make a call, stage 2. Then we schedule a meeting, stage 3. Then we send a calendar invite, stage 4. Then we go to the meeting, stage 5. And then you keep going and going, and it's broken up too much. And while that may be valuable for like a flow chart for training purposes, for someone to understand exactly how it works, maybe even for our systems that people may follow for like an SOP, those may be valuable. But in terms of the process and just checking the process and having clear triggers that show, hey, someone needs to do something here, or someone's responsible for this stage, it's too much. And when you have an overcomplicated process with too many stages, you end up making it too much to manage, and it's really hard to start tracking a lot of things. And so whenever you think about the stages of a process, you really want to focus on where are the biggest triggers and action points for your team. Like making a phone call and scheduling a meeting is kind of the same thing. They're doing that during this. You don't need to break that into 2 steps. And so basically, like if you're talking about a sales process, you may have a stage for new lead. And that can mean several different things. Someone called, someone submitted a form, someone showed up in person, someone was at an event. Those can all be new leads, and it's the same thing. And one person's responsible for all new leads that come in, right? And then you have maybe a scheduled meeting. So someone's responsible for going to that scheduled meeting. Then from there, you're going to need a quote or an estimate or a bid. That would be the next stage. And that can be for a variety of services. It can be a lot of different things, but we know that someone's responsible for getting that quote done. Then from there, the quote's been sent and someone's responsible for the follow-up. Then if it's approved, we're going on to drawings or whatever, but just break it up into bigger chunks, not too big where it's like, hey, quote needed, but there's no follow-up process. There's no meeting. There's no who's responsible for gathering the information and calling and following up. Like break it down into chunks that have clear action items that someone can be responsible for when you're doing your process mapping.
I think you just hit a thing I wrote down to say, and you just said it. They need to be in chunks that an individual or a group of individuals by name are responsible for. Mm-hmm. And early on in the process, you don't have to tell them exactly what a quote needs to look like, although maybe you should on that. But you don't have to have all the detail, but you have to say, those are sitting in the need quote box and they've been there for 10 days, and who's responsible for moving them out?
Yeah.
And at the end of quote sent, then it moves on to the next person or process quote follow-up, right? But you have to, big enough that you can understand what the process is, small enough that you can assign responsibility for a person or people to move things out of that box. One thing I really like, and you do it with a lot, I think if I talk about tiles, people will know what I'm talking about.
You're talking about a Kanban system is the formal term.
No, I wasn't going that far.
Okay.
I'm back more simple. I'm talking about if you look at your Google Calendar and you want to move an appointment from today to tomorrow, you grab it and just pull it over.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Kanban. So that's like Trello is a tool for that. HubSpot has
okay.
pipelines. Several other tools out there have pipelines, Kanban system, whatever it is. But
I
essentially,
always use Kanban with empty inventory bins, but yeah, okay, Kanban system.
yeah,
Cards that you're at the needs a quote, and there are a bunch of cards below it, stacked up like playing cards with everybody in there, and you can look and see what's there. You can jump into that and see what the individual ones are. And anyway, I crave that. I want to see that for my clients, and I'm not even running their business. I just, what do we got? What do we got? Where are they? What stage? How do we know we didn't miss it? How do it falls through the cracks? And I love, and I don't think all softwares do it, but I love systems that can be reported in a Kanban system by tiles or cards, right?
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with that. But
no, I think that's one of the most valuable things because the visual is so powerful. And really, you see people do this on whiteboards. I've seen people have columns on a whiteboard in their office with sticky notes for a project or clipboards for a project that hook inside of the columns. And then, hey, we got a new project. It goes inside the new project column. Hey, we're ordering materials. We move the clipboard or the Post-it note to the order materials column. And then in the office, it's a visual for everyone to see where everything's at, and someone's responsible for each column, and they know exactly the status of each project that they're working on. Same thing, but you're doing it with software. And the benefit of doing it with software over a piece of paper, over a whiteboard, over a basic spreadsheet. You can do all this with spreadsheets, by the way, but you got to be pretty good at Excel if you want to get the most out of it. But with the software, it's going to, for example, if we're looking at sales process and we have 5 cards in the quote sent column. Well, in that column, it's going to tally up the total at the bottom of the column. So we know exactly how much we have out in quotes. Or if we're waiting on deposits. Well, then we've got this much waiting in deposits. We've won these jobs and we need to go produce them. This is how much we've won this week or this month or this year. And you can, filter it by salesperson. You can filter it by when the close date is. You can filter it by projects over 20,000, or there's just so much information that you can gather there that allows you to make better decisions in terms of that process that you're tracking. How can we improve our sales process? How can we improve our production process? How can we improve the install process? But it applies to more than that. It applies to your hiring. It applies to your bookkeeping. There's so many things that you can start to track.
Different workflows,
if you have the workflows mapped out, and then if you start using a software for each of the workflows that you have. I think a lot of times you're also going to, I've already mentioned bottlenecks, but I guess I can give kind of a clear example. A lot of times a bottleneck for sales teams as they're going through their workflow for sales, a lot of times the bottleneck will either be that they can't get the quotes approved, right? Or another one that I see oftentimes with contracting sales teams is that they don't have a crew available. And so just by looking at those two things, you can make very good decisions. So an example for the ones where the quotes aren't getting approved, it either means that your quote process is outdated or it's too complicated. For a lot of contractor sales teams, especially projects that have a shorter life cycle, they don't take 6 months to complete, but maybe they take 6 hours to complete. The shorter that project life cycle, you should be getting a signature on a quote right away. You don't need to be sending a quote and waiting, for hours or for days to get it approved. You need to be going in person and getting a signature right away. You're either not talking to the right person who can make the decision fast, or you are taking too long to get back to the customer with a quote and to get a response. And so that's really, if you see that that's a bottleneck, man, we've got so much waiting in that quote sent pile, or even the quote needed pile inside of our column in our workflow. Really clear steps there are to go in person, to be faster to get a quote out, and to be more proactive about getting signatures and approval on quotes. So that's just one example of a bottleneck. Being able to see that very clearly inside of your workflow will allow you to make those decisions and take the appropriate actions. Then on the other side,
that's the one where all the cards pile up and they're not moving out.
exactly.
You can see it immediately.
Man, we've got 25 cards sitting in quote sent, but only like 3 cards sitting in quote needed, or 3 cards sitting in waiting on final deposit, or whatever it is. Right. The other one where, hey, we've got the quote approved, but we're waiting to get on the schedule, right? So that pending schedule column, whatever it is inside your business, because we don't have crews available, that can show you a few things. One, maybe you need to hire some more crews. Maybe you got to get another truck because you've got so much work backed up or that's ready to go, but it's just sitting in your sales process because you haven't been able to get them on the schedule. That's maybe one answer. But actually, I think what the more common one is that you're not charging enough, because you're saying yes to too many jobs to where your crews are backed out for weeks and you can't get to the job soon enough. And if you increase your prices, 1, you're going to be making more money, but 2, people should be saying no. And if you're not getting people to say no, then you're not charging enough. You shouldn't be able to do every single job. And I know that's kind of hard to hear as a revenue person, if you're in charge of sales in your business or whatever it is, but you've got to be increasing your prices so that now your crews are more profitable and you can be a better service provider because you can actually get to the job quicker than the guy that says yes to every single job. So there's a lot of different things that you can discover.
I'm going to take us on a little bit of a tangent here right now, but you brought it up, raising your prices. I am dealing with a situation right now with a single lady who goes to my gym who just got worked over by a contractor, right? She turned in a house warranty on an HVAC system. The warranty company paid the guy. She paid the guy. She can't get him, all this. And it's about her 4th time trying to get a good contractor. And she says, how do you get a good contractor? So hold that thought. I have another contractor, you and I both work with him in Colorado, who is new, but he's really thriving because he does what he says he's going to do. He shows up when he's supposed to. He communicates well. They do good work. We've got to make sure that stays that way as it gets bigger and bigger. But I'm so proud of him because he's just getting it all over the place. Well, why is he? Because people want that and they will pay for that and charge for it. My friend from the gym would gladly have paid double to have an honest contractor come out and fix her stuff so she could sell the house and do all the things she needed to do. But now it's still up in the air. She doesn't have the money anymore. So it's real hard anyway, it's just a mess. So from that price raising thing, if you set these processes and you can communicate and you do then charge what you need to charge to make really good money. Yeah, to take care of them.
And it's okay. It's okay to get no's. I think that's the biggest problem that I see with contractors is that they hear no and they get demoralized. Like, this is the only job out there. There's plenty of work to be done. It's okay to get a no. And if they say no and you think that it's a really good job, you can say, hey, listen, I understand this doesn't fit within your budget right now, but I'm just going to let you know that my promise is that if you move forward with us, I'm going to be available. You're going to be happy with our service. And if you're not, we're going to do whatever it takes to make you happy. Right? But this is our price. Our price is our price. So,
and I mean, that was a divergent, but good contractors who do what they say and communicate well and do good work they're so valued by the public. People want to know, where do I find them? How can I get these guys?
Yeah.
And they'll pay for it. The low ballers won't, so forget it, but they'll pay for it. Anyway, so.
Well, and I want to talk about some of the byproducts of working on this, because it's not just that you're going to be more efficient and you're going to be able to track things and What's going to end up happening long term, and really after 2 or 3 months of executing this at a high level, even just for one process, like just for sales or just for your project management or whatever, is that you're going to have less chaos. And that's going to actually probably cause some chaos internally, because beforehand you were the kind of person that's looking at your email or your cell phone for the urgent, right? And you're the person that's just waiting on something to pop up in the inbox because that's going to dictate what happens in your day. And because now that you're working on a process-driven approach, now you've got more time. Now you have less fires to put out. And so you kind of can feel lost at times. And that's a hard place for an owner-operator that's been operating that way for the past 2 or 3 years of just go, 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 processes in my head. I'm the one that's responsible. But now I actually have a place where my employees can manage it all. And it's a good place to be, but I want to be aware of it because I'm talking to 2 people right now that are dealing with that. Like, oh, I've actually got all this time back and I don't know what to do. And it really allows you to go from a place of working on the semi-important but super urgent to the more important but way less urgent. And it gets you into that place where you can start to be more of an owner rather than an operator. Right now I'm seeing someone who's actually going back into more operations like in the field than in the office because the office is just flowing, right? And now they're back in and trying to work on SOPs for the field rather than for the office because the office is just kind of running itself and it's kind of going like a machine, and they've got a great admin in place that's just rocking it because now they have processes that they can follow. So just an interesting thing that you're probably going to run to if you start doing this really well, where you're like, oh, wow, like less fires to deal with.
Well, we could say something like less stress, more free time, and more money. Yeah, that's the ticket. No,
Yeah.
If you have a process, you have the Kanban, which thank you for educating me on that, the tiles, the cards, and you can look just knowing, if you're like me and like most of the business owners I know, that chaos and what really drives you crazy is uncertainty. I don't know where I stand. I got to go figure this out, look this up. If you can look at that and you find that you do have a backlog somewhere, you got a bunch of work, but you don't really have a bunch of stress because just go do the work, right?
Right.
Yeah, get the bid out. But yeah, and then the ultimate use of being systemized, as we discussed in other episodes, is increase the value of your business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, process mapping, you've probably done this even on just a napkin or on a whiteboard at some point, but I think it's extremely valuable to do inside of software and to get into your entire team incorporated into. If that's something that you're interested in, reach out to us. We'll have links in the show notes of where to get started on what we call our CRM growth kit. It's going to allow you to manage your contacts and companies, but primarily track the process and the workflows that your sales goes through and that your production or your project management goes through. So if you're interested in that, we'd be happy to help. But thanks for talking about this, Martin. Listeners, please go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us likes and follows throughout social media. And we appreciate you listening in.
See you, man.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.